Welcome back to Beyond the Scoreboard. I would like to begin today's episode with a question for you. Have you ever worked incredibly hard and still felt stuck? Maybe you train more than anyone else. Maybe you spent extra hours in the gym. Maybe you watched film. Maybe you attended every single practice. Maybe you put in the work. Yet months later, very little changed. The results were not where you expected them to be. For sure. The progress wasn't what you hoped for. The improvement was smaller than you imagined. And if you have experienced that, believe me, you're not alone. Because one of the most dangerous traps for athletes, coaches, and leaders is confusing movement with progress. At first glance, they look the same. Both involve effort, activity, and work. But they are not the same, actually. Movement means doing something, progress means improving something. And sometimes we become so focused on activity that we stop asking whether the activity is actually producing growth. Because athletes experience this all the time. A player spends 3 hours in the gym every day. Nobody questions the commitment. Nobody questions the effort. The player is always working, always training, always doing something. But 6 months later, the weaknesses remain. The shooting percentages hasn't changed. Decision making hasn't improved. Defensive habits haven't improved. The athlete worked hard, but hard work and improvement are not automatically the same thing. That can be difficult truth to accept though, because effort feels productive, effort feels noble, effort gives us something to point to, but effort without direction often leads to frustration. The best athletes I have worked with were not always the busiest athletes. They were often the most intentional, though. They knew exactly what they were trying to improve. They measured it, tracked it, evaluated it, adjusted it. Every workout had a purpose, and every drill had a reason, and every repetition was connected to growth. And that's effectiveness. Coaches fall into this trap as well. In fact, I think the coaches may struggle it even more. A coach can spend, let's say, 70 hours a week working, practice plans, film sessions, recruiting, emails, meetings, fundraising, scheduling, travel, administrative work. The coach is exhausted. Everyone sees the effort, everyone sees the commitment. But at the end of the season, an important question remains. Did the players improve? Did the culture improve? Did leadership improve? Did communication improve? Did the program move forward? Because being exhausted is not proof of effectiveness. Being busy is not proof of progress. That's a difficult lesson for many leaders, especially those who care deeply. The reality is that activity creates the feeling of progress. Results reveal whether progress actually happened. Think about the difference. An athlete can shoot 1,000 shots. That's activity. An athlete can become a better shooter. That's progress. A coach can watch 20 hours of film. That's activity. A, a coach can become a better teacher. That's a progress. A leader can attend meetings all day. That's an activity. A leader can improve the organization. That's a progress. The two are not always connected, though. One of the reasons this happens because activity feels safe. If I am busy, I never have to ask harder questions. Questions like, am I improving? Am I getting better? Is this actually working? Am I addressing the right problem? Those questions can be uncomfortable. Busy people often avoid them, not intentionally, but just subconsciously, because the activity gives us a sense of accomplishment. We feel productive, we feel committed, we feel responsible. Meanwhile, the real issue remains untouched. Sport teaches this lesson consistently. Imagine an athlete struggling with decision making. Instead of improving decision making, the athlete simply trains longer, more workouts, more drills, more hours. The problem isn't effort, though. The problem is the focus. The athlete is working harder on the wrong thing. The same thing happens in coaching. A coach struggles with team culture. Instead of addressing culture, the coach adds more drills, more rules, more structure, more activity. The real issue remains. Because more work is not always the answer. Sometimes better work is the answer. The strongest coaches I have known understand this. They consistently ask, what actually moves the needle? What creates improvement? What produces growth? Those questions guide everything they do. The strongest athletes ask similar questions. They do not simply train hard, they train intentionally. They understand that improvement requires honesty. If a weakness exists, they address it. If something is wrong, we're not working, they change it. If progress stalls, they adapt. The willingness to evaluate is what separates movement from progress. And faith offers an interesting perspective here as well. Many people spend years staying busy, busy schedules, busy calendars, busy lives, yet they rarely stop long enough to ask, am I becoming the person I want to become? Am I growing? Am I developing? Am I moving closer to my purpose? Those are effectiveness questions. And effectiveness questions often matter more than activity questions. As I grow older, I find myself asking fewer questions about effort and more questions about impact. Not how much did I do today, but what improved today. Not how busy was I, but what moved forward. Those questions create clarity. They force us to focus on outcomes rather than appearances. As we close today's episode, I want to leave you with a challenge. Think about an area of your life where you are working hard. Your sport, your coaching, your leadership, your career, your relationships. Now, ask yourself, am I making progress or am I simply creating movement? Because movement can make us feel productive. Progress changes who we become. The goal is not to fill your calendar, though. The goal is not to exhaust yourself either. And the goal is definitely not to stay busy. The goal is growth. The goal is improvement. And the goal is impact. But there's a difference between movement and progress. And the most effective athletes, coaches, and leaders understand that difference. Thank you for joining me for episode 18 of Beyond the Scoreboard. Until next time, continue pursuing excellence, continue investing in people, and remember that some of life's most important lessons are found beyond the scoreboard.